Right now, while you are watching the video, the United States government is about 6.43 billion dollar deeper in debt than it was yesterday. That's not a typo. 6.43 billion dollar every single day. That's $74,000 every second. By the time this intro is over, America will owe another half a million dollars. And a few days ago, something happened that economists had been warning about for years. For years, something the government hoped you didn't fully notice. The United States national debt officially crossed $40 trillion. Not 40 million, not 40 billion, 40 trillion. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how we got here, what this number actually means for your wallet, your mortgage, your paychecks, your future, and what happens next. Stick around because by the end of this video, you will understand this crisis better than most people in this Washington. What actually happened? On August 19, 2026, the US Treasury Department confirmed it. The federal government's total debt passed $40 trillion for the first time in the American history. Here the part that should really get your attention. This happened faster than almost anyone predicted. Back in 2023, the Congressional Budget Office said America wouldn't hit this number until the fiscal year 2028. We got here nearly 2 years earlier. Think about that. Just 10 years ago, in August 2016, the national debt was sitting just under $20 trillion. In one decade, it doubled, And so why did it happen faster than expected this time? A big reason is the lost tax revenue. Some of the tariffs the government had counted on collecting were struck down, blowing a whole expected income. At the same time, spending on the interest, healthcare, retirement programs kept climbing no matter what. What 40 trillion even means? Number this big stop meaning anything to the human brains. So let's make it real. If you try to pay off the national debt at a rate of $1 million a day, it would take you about 110,000 years. For context, that's longer than the modern human have existed as a species. Split even across every man, woman, child in America, all 343 million of us, that's about $117,000 per person. A family of four, over $460,000. That's basically a mortgage on a house you never agreed to buy. Here's another way to see it: the 11 most valuable companies in the entire S&P 500, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and all of them combined are worth roughly $28 trillion. The US national debt is $12 trillion bigger than the combined value of the America's biggest company. On try this one, the International Space Station cost about $170 billion to build. You could build 340 International Space Station for the price of the America's debt. And here the scary part of the economist, the debt is now about 1.2 times the size of the entire US economy. In other words, America owes more than the entire country produced in a year, and in the goods and service combined. This has only happened once before in the history, during the World War II. How did we get here? This didn't happen overnight. It's the result of the decades of decisions from both political parties. Let's look at the number adjusted for today's dollars so it's a fair comparison. During Barack Obama's 2 terms, the national debt grew by about $13.2 trillion. Largely because of the 2008 financial crisis, bailouts, and the year of the rebuilding that followed. Donald Trump's first term added about $9.8 trillion, driven partly by tax cuts and the pandemic relief spending. His second term has already added more than the $3.5 trillion just about a year and a half, bringing his personal total across both terms above the $13.3 trillion. That officially makes him the president who has overseen the largest real increase in the federal debt in the US history. This isn't really a story about the one president or one party. It's a structural. Two massive costs keep growing no matter who is the White House, who is in the White House. Number one, social security and the healthcare entitlement. As more Americans retire and live longer, these programs cost more every single year, and no Congress in decades has been willing to seriously reform them because it's a politically painful. Number two, interest on the debt itself. This is the part most people don't think about, but it might be the scariest part of the whole story, and that's exactly what we are covering next. The interest trap. We are going to discuss the interest trap. Imagine you have a credit card, you are not paying it off. You are just paying the minimum payment every month, and that the minimum payment keep getting bigger. That's basically what's happening with the US government right now. In 2026, the US is projected to spend more than $1 trillion just on interest. Not schools, not roads, not military, just interest on the money already borrowed. That's now more than the entire US defense budget. Interest payments have become the second largest expense in the entire federal budget right now, right behind social security, bigger than the Medicare, biggest than the military, even the military. Right now, about 19% of every tax dollar the government collects goes straight to the interest payment. That number is expected to keep climbing. Here the why this got go so much worse recently. For years after the 2008 crisis, the interest rates were kept very slow, so borrowing was cheap. But when the inflation spikes after the pandemic, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates aggressively to fight it. Suddenly, all the old cheap debt had to be refinanced at a much higher rates, like your mortgage suddenly resetting from 3% to 7%. This is what economists call a debt spiral risk. More debt leads to the more interest leads to the more borrowing to cover the interest, which leads to the even more debt. Maya McGiones, president of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, put it bluntly: unsustainable borrowing at this scale strains the whole economy and the risk a dangerous spiral if lawmakers don't act. How this hit your wallet? Let's discuss about this. Okay, so this is a Washington problem, right? Not really. Here how this trickles down to your life, even if you have never thought about the national debt before in your life. Let's go. Number one, mortgage and loan rates. When the government borrows this much, it competes with everyone else for the lender's money. That pushes interest rates higher across the board. Mortgage, car loans, credit cards. That's a huge reason home affordability has become so brutal in the recent years. Number two, inflation risk. Massive government borrowing can pump more dollars into the economy, which combined with other factors can push prices higher. Every trip to the grocery store, that's part of the story. Number three, future benefit cuts or tax hikes. Fix this problem eventually requires some mix of the higher taxes, reducing spendings, or changes to the programs like Social Security and the Medicare. According to the CBO, there is no way around this match forever. Eventually something gives. Okay. Number four, it's becoming a voting issue. Analysts say Americans are increasingly connecting the dots between the debt and their own mortgage payment, and that this could be directly shape how people vote in the upcoming elections. Economic researchers have pointed out that this debt is already slowing economic growth, pushing up interest rate and adding to inflation right now. not just in some distant future. What happens next? So where does this go from here? Let's look at the projections. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that by the end of the fiscal year 2028, the national debt will hit approximately $43.3 trillion. And that's assuming nothing dramatically changes. Scenario 1, muddle through. Congress keeps kicking the can down the road, interest cost keeping eating a bigger slice of the budget. Eventually taxes rise and the benefits quietly shrink for the future generation. Scenario 2, the reckoning. If investors ever lose confidence that the US can manage this debt, they could demand much higher interest rates to keep lending, which would make the whole problem worse, faster. Some economists warn this could eventually risk higher inflation or a genuine financial crisis if left totally unchecked. To be clear, the US isn't Greece. The dollar is still the world's reserve currency, which gives the America more room to maneuver than almost any other country. But that room isn't unlimited, and it's shrinking every year. This goes unaddressed. Fixing this, according to the CBO itself, requires some honest combination of the slower spending growth and the higher revenue. Nobody in Washington wants to be the one who says that out loud in an election year. And let's discuss about the bigger picture. And here's something worth sitting with. This step isn't something Americans today will simply pay off. Realistically, this bill gets handed to the next generation, and the one after that. It is why some economists call government debt fundamentally unfair. It lets the present enjoy the spendings while the future foots the bill. And that doesn't mean the panic, it means awareness. The more powerful, the more people understand this number, the more pressure there is on elected officers to actually deal with it, instead of just posting about it once then going back to arguing about something else. And the call to action. Okay, so let's recap. Americans debt just crossed $40 trillion a month ahead of schedule. That's about $1,17,000 for every single Americans. Interest payment alone now cost more than the entire defense budget, and without real reform, the CBO says we are headed to $43.3 trillion by 2028. This isn't a Republican problem or a Democrat problem. It is an American problem, and it affects every single person watching this video, whether you realize it yet or not. If this video helped you actually understand the debt crisis, instead of just being scared by a scary number, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. And because I am breaking down exactly how the US economy really works every single week, so drop a comment below. Do you think America can actually fix this, or we are already past the point of no return? And I read every comment, so let's talk about it down there. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye bye.